What is going on, good people? Today we are talking about a topic that has fascinated me for a very, very long time, and I think at some point everyone has thought about, maybe everyone, I don't know, but I know I have, and that is time travel. And let me get this out the way to tell you what side of the fence I fall on, and that is a believer. I do believe time travel exists, and I think there's many evidences of this in the world, and today I am going to give you the top 5 pieces of evidence that I have found that time travel is indeed real. Let's get right into it. Number 5. This here painting is from 1937. It was painted by Umberto Romano. It's titled Pinchon and the Settling of Springfield. It shows William Pinchon, the founder of Springfield, Massachusetts. Him and his crony here are around some Native Americans. What's interesting is the Native American that's in the tub or whatever thing that is there, he's holding what seems to be a cell phone. If you pay attention to the guys, the Native Americans behind him, they are all intrigued on what he has in his hand as well. Now, one thing that caught my attention was the garbs that these settlers were wearing, right? They have hats, they have these snazzy, clothes with buckles on them and long hair, beards, right? And then you look at the man, pay attention to the man right here who's tied up, who seems to have trousers on. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if they had barbershops back then to give you a 2 with the grain there. This man seems to have a well-cut haircut there. And if you look even closer, his mustache is done. He just has a mustache, which I don't think was a popular thing back then. So what leads me to believe is this is the man they found with that cell phone. And if you ask me, I think it would be very difficult to go back in time and not be noticed, especially back then. I'm sure everyone knew everyone, especially the settlers, right? Everyone knew everyone. You can't just come back and blend in like this is New York City in 2022. So you get caught. Who are you? You can't name who you are. You're found with this cell phone in your pocket or whatever device it is. Things get a little interesting, to say the least. Moving right along. Number 4. Here is a sculpture from the Cathedral Nueva in Salamanca, Spain. Now there's multiple sculptures carved into the sides of this cathedral here, and one happens to be this one, which is clearly an astronaut in a spacesuit. Now this thing was dates back to 1513, which to my knowledge the space program has not started yet. That could be a wild guess, but the space program has not started yet. Space travel wasn't even a thing at that point. Now, is this a vision from a past life of this sculptor or the person who made this thing, or did they get visited by a time traveler and actually saw this thing? Now, they always try to debunk everything, and they tell me that now this was said to be part of a restoration that happened in 1992 for an exhibit happening in 93, and this was created by a stonemason named Miguel Romero to continue the tradition of incorporating contemporary elements to this thing with every restoration. Now, I just find it very interesting. I don't see how that would be even in place with what would be carved into the side of those buildings. I don't understand why that would be even a thing. Now, I will say this. I do think every time there's something discovered, the government or whoever wants to debunk that thing. Every time there's a UFO sighting, it's a weather balloon. Every time there's lights in the sky, we were doing a military expedition. Oh no, it was a fighter jet. So I don't expect anyone to come out and say, okay, you got us. It was an alien carved into an astronaut carved into the side of this cathedral back in the 1500s. You got us. I don't think anybody wants you to know that anyway, so they're going to debunk it any way, shape, or form they can. Just my opinion. Moving right along. Number 3, the time-traveling surfer. So take a look at this photo here that was taken in 1917. If you look, And you see this guy? You see Waldo here? Yeah. So everyone else is dressed in traditional, 1917 attire. This is back in somewhere in Canada. All of these men and women are dressed alike, right? And then you see this guy who seems to be out of place. And if you really look really closely, you can see the woman who seems to be pointing out this gentleman. And the guy next to him is looking at him in shock and awe, as well as the guy behind him. Now, either this guy was just ahead of his time, or he doesn't belong there, period. Now, I don't know which side you fall on this, but I find it hard to believe that everyone is dressed in traditional garbs there, and this man is just sitting there, and the people around him are in shock that he's there. So I think this is the number 3 proof of time travel existing. Number 2, the time traveling hipster. Now, if you take a look at this photo here, it's at a bridge reopening, the South Fork Bridge. It's the Gold Bridge there in British Columbia. If you take a look, the reoccurring theme is that these time travelers have a hard time matching the attire of the people of the time. If you look very closely here, you see a man in what appears to be in a graphic tee, sunglasses, which is not necessarily out of the ordinary. Sunglasses was around at that time, but sunglasses and a camera in his hand. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't have cameras. This was back in the 1940s. They had cameras around that time, but if you notice, the man in front right here, he has a camera that was indicative of the time. The man in the graphic tee has a camera that hasn't come out yet, which leads us to believe this man is a time traveler. And if you look, he sticks out like a sore thumb. And one thing I've noticed in all of these old photos, that most men of those times always had hats on. Most of them. Now, I'm not saying that's an indication that he's a time traveler because he doesn't have a hat on, but wearing a graphic tee, having a camera that wasn't invented yet, sunglasses, and that hairstyle no one was wearing. I think is a pretty good indicator for me that man is out of place and is indeed a time traveler. Number 1. This one blew my mind. Good old Andrew Carson. Now, this man famously took an $800 investment. $800. This was in 2003. And turned it into, you want to take a guess? Yeah, $350 million by making 126 perfectly executed trades on the stock market. Now, obviously, someone found this fishy. The FBI comes and picks this guy up, asks him what happened, and he had no qualms about telling them, oh, no, I just got lucky or anything like that. He came out and he had a 4-hour confession stating that he was from the year 2256. He came back and he knew the outcomes of all of these trades. Of course, this is how he executed it so perfectly. And he said in his interview that he was going to try to make it look real, and lose some money, lose some trades, but he got out of hand, he got carried away, got caught up in the moment, and he couldn't help himself. He was subsequently issued a court date, which he never showed for, right, and never has been seen since. And here's the eerie part. They had no records of Andrew Carson before December of 2002. No record of this man anywhere. The federal government could not figure out where this man came from before the year 2002 of December. He also predicted the exact time of our invasion of Iraq. So it's up to you. You decide, time traveler or hoax. But I don't know anyone that can make trades with that kind of accuracy anywhere on the planet, not even an algorithm. So I tend to believe this man, and we've never found him since. Makes sense. Either way, this has been the top 5 pieces of evidence that time travel is real. If you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button, turn notifications on, and I'll be back for another top 5 very, very soon. Thank you for joining me.